Welcome to this very brief presentation on the events surrounding the appearance of Our Lady in Fatima in May 1917. Our story begins a year earlier, back in 1916. The world, like now, was then a very troubled place. World War I was raging and millions were dying on the battlefields of Europe. At home here in Ireland, the first shots had been fired in the war for Ireland's independence, and in Russia, Lenin was spreading communism. Meanwhile, Freemasons were waging war against God in Portugal, doing everything they could to establish an atheistic state. Leading Mason, Alfonso Costa, proudly proclaimed, "In 2 generations, Catholicism will be completely eliminated in Portugal." In an attempt to destroy the Church in Portugal, religious instruction in all schools was prohibited and religious orders were outlawed. Things were looking very bad. Then along came 3 children: Lucia, aged 10, Francisco, aged 9, and little Jacinta, aged 7. It was their job to go to nearby hills every day to look after the family's sheep. One day, while tending their sheep in February 1916, an angel appeared to them for the first of 3 times. He taught them new prayers, and on the 3rd visit gave them Holy Communion. Unknown to them at the time, they were being prepared to meet Our Lady, the Queen of Angels. On May the 13th, 1917, the following year, the children were playing when suddenly a bright shaft of light pierced the air, and before them appeared a lady dressed all in white, more brilliant than the sun. The lady spoke to them and said, "Fear not, I will not harm you. I am from heaven." She asked the children to return every month on the 13th day for the next 6 months. She also asked them to pray the rosary every day for peace in the world. At first, people did not believe their story and ridiculed them. They felt isolated and became quite unhappy. Things got worse as the months went by. Government officials actually put them in prison for several days and tried to force them to retract their story. There were clashes around the operation site between opposing groups. Later, the church built at the site was bombed. However, the crowds got bigger each month, but many people were just turning up out of curiosity or to jeer at the children. The lady informed the children of many things. She told them that each of them would see the glory of heaven, but before that each would have much to suffer. In response to a question from Lucia about a local girl who had recently died, Our Lady informed Lucia that she was in purgatory. Later, she then showed the children a terrifying vision of the souls who have died in mortal sin and gone to hell. Our Lady did not do this to frighten the children, but to show them how important it was to do penance for our own sins and the sins of others, so that people would be saved. Referring to herself as the Lady of the Rosary, she gave the children what is now called the Fatima prayer, and asked them to pray it at the end of each decade of the Rosary. The Lady also predicted future events. She told the children that World War I would soon end, but another and worse one would soon begin, during the reign of Pope Pius XI, if people did not stop offending God. The children were also told that if Russia was not consecrated to her Immaculate Heart, it would spread its errors throughout the world. Our Lady also warned that the Church was going to have much to suffer and that many would be martyred for the faith. Then, to prevent the children becoming despondent, Our Lady reassured them and said, "In the end, my Immaculate Heart will triumph." During the September apparition, the children asked Our Lady to perform a miracle to convince the onlookers that they were not misleading them. She agreed to perform the miracle the following month. On the morning of the 13th of October, a crowd of up to 70,000 people had gathered, including government officials and the secular press, who were there hoping to witness and report on a total farce. The children's families were also there, but were very frightened that if there was no miracle, the crowd might turn on them in anger. Mary did not let them down. People still find it hard to accept or explain what actually happened that day. In front of thousands of people, the sun danced in the sky amidst exploding colours. The faithful were delighted, while the cynics were silent, bewildered, but unable to deny what was unfolding before them. In addition to the dancing sun, the children reported, "We beheld Saint Joseph with the child Jesus, and Our Lady robed in white with a blue mantle beside the sun." We hope you've enjoyed our very brief presentation.